1 week ago, Donald Trump laid out his economic plan in Michigan. Today, it was Hillary Clinton's turn to do the same. Donald Trump, of course, spoke 3 days ago in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club. Today, Hillary Clinton addressing factory workers in Macomb County. Macomb County is a pretty famous county in American politics. It's a big blue-collar county right outside Detroit. It's where that term you hear all the time in politics, Reagan Democrats, blue-collar Democrats who broke with their party and voted for Ronald Reagan. Well, that term was coined. People talking about Macomb County back in the 1980s. So that's where Hillary Clinton went today, Macomb County in Michigan. She was talking about the economy. She went after Donald Trump in the way that Democrats typically go after Republicans in presidential elections. She went after him as a defender of the rich, but there was a little bit more to this speech. Hillary Clinton also defended herself on an issue where she could be vulnerable: trade.
What about trade? After all, Trump talks about it all the time. My message to every worker in Michigan and across America is this: I will stop any trade deal that kills jobs or holds down wages, including the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I oppose it now, I'll oppose it after the election, and I'll oppose it as president.
Clinton saying she opposes TPP now and that she will after the election. That is the key phrase there. More on that in just a minute. Trade is a challenging issue for Clinton for two reasons. One is that specific major trade deals like the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, they're now more unpopular than ever. A Bloomberg poll earlier this year finding a plurality of Americans now believe NAFTA has been bad for the U.S. economy. And anti-trade sentiment is even higher in Rust Belt states like Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania. These are swing states, potential swing states that Donald Trump is going after hard this fall. And in this year's Michigan primary, exit polls showed that a majority of both Democratic and Republican primary voters believe that U.S. trade with other countries takes away more jobs than it creates. Big margins there. You see it on your screen. Now, the other reason trade is a potential trouble spot for Clinton is because she has a long and complicated history with it. It was her husband, Bill Clinton, who back in 1993 pushed the NAFTA agreement through Congress, signed it into law. That's a fact that she was at pains not to mention in her 2008 primary race against then-Senator Barack Obama. Both of them at that point were trying to position themselves as the most anti-NAFTA candidate. More recently, as Secretary of State, Clinton expressed support for the TPP agreement. At one point, she famously said that it sets the gold standard in trade agreements. That's what she said originally, but then, facing a challenge from the left by Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries, she came out and opposed TPP. Then, after beating Sanders in the primaries, one of Clinton's closest political allies, Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, came out and said that Clinton would just flip her position back on TPP if she gets elected president, that she would go back to supporting it. McAuliffe then tried to walk those comments back. So that is the backstory. That's why Clinton took pains today to say that she will oppose the deal even after the election. Now, of course, it is not unusual for a Democratic presidential candidate to have a complicated history on the issue of trade. It's the past two Democratic presidents, Obama and Bill Clinton, who have both pursued major free trade deals as president. This, even as a major chunk of their party base wants nothing to do with those deals. There is tension within the Democratic coalition on this issue. It can be a challenge for Democratic candidates to address. What is different this time around is that the Democratic presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, is this time running against a Republican who is embracing a fiercely anti-trade message. Last major general election candidate to be as anti-free trade as Trump, well, you got to go back to 1992, the independent candidate, H. Ross Perot. Remember, it was Perot who warned of the, quote, giant sucking sound that NAFTA would make, draining millions of jobs from the American economy. Perot staunchly opposed to NAFTA. That was one of his signature issues more than 20 years ago. Now, a generation later, that Perot message on trade is resonating with a growing slice of the American electorate, especially in Rust Belt America. And Hillary Clinton, unlike other recent Democratic nominees, has to worry about her Republican opponent potentially connecting with voters on this issue. And that explains why she's running ads like this.
Where are the shirts made? Bangladesh.
Well, it's good. We employ people in Bangladesh.
Ties? Where are the ties
They
made?
have to work
These are
too.
Beautiful ties.
They are great ties.
The ties are made in where? China? China. Ties are made in China.
It's a question Hillary Clinton's campaign has to think about. The polls have been good for them lately, but with Donald Trump hammering the trade issue at every stop, is Clinton doing enough to reassure voters in places like Macomb County, Michigan, who worry about her commitment when it comes to trade? Joining us now is Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. She is a fierce opponent of the TPP trade deal. She's also a Hillary Clinton supporter. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. So, you heard and you know as well as anyone the history of Hillary Clinton on TPP that we just laid out there. You heard her speech today in your state. You heard her say, I oppose it now. I will oppose it after the election. I'll oppose it as president. Do you believe that as a Hillary Clinton supporter, and why?
I'm going to tell you point blank, I wouldn't be supporting her for president if I didn't believe her. You know, I surprised people when I was asked before I was ever sworn in what my position was going to be. And I was elected to Congress to protect the working men and women in the state of Michigan, the working families. And I've talked to Hillary Clinton about this many times, and she has promised me she will oppose any trade deal that would hurt my constituents, that would hurt working families across this country. She couldn't have been stronger today. She made it really clear. She opposes it today. You just said it. She opposes it today. She'll oppose it after the election, and she'll oppose it when she's president.
You say oppose any deal that hurts the people and the workers in your district. Does that leave the door open? Realistically speaking, are there changes in your mind that she as president could seek to this, realistically speaking, that would allow it to meet the standard you set there?
Okay, let's start with currency manipulation, which, you know, I got excited when Donald Trump talked about it last year, too. But as you showed in the commercials, then we found out Donald Trump doesn't walk his talk. He talked a good game, and I was excited to see someone bring attention to an issue that we're always talking about. But right now, Japan, with its currency manipulation, gives Toyota an $8,000 cost advantage per vehicle when it comes into this country. If we can get a trade agreement that will actually deal with currency manipulation, and it's not just the Japanese, it's China and other countries, then maybe we do have to compete in a global marketplace. But we can't do it at the cost of jobs in this country. She said it today. When we talk trade deals, I thought NAFTA was a good deal in the 90s. And so did GM, Ford, and Chrysler. And now Ford and Chrysler are opposing this deal because people said that we were going to be able to have jobs in a global marketplace. And the reality is now that companies are going overseas and not producing those jobs here.
When you look at Donald Trump, we say that this is something we really haven't seen in a general election in a long time. The Republican Party and its national platform with the candidates it's nominated in the last generation has been pretty clearly free trade. You got Donald Trump up there saying, get rid of NAFTA. It's been a disaster. You got him bashing all these trade deals. Is he making inroads with blue-collar voters in the Rust Belt?
Look, I've always said that this race is going to be competitive, but it's because they don't go under the rhetoric. He's got cheap shots. Today, after I left the speech that Hillary spoke at, I went into a liquor store just to get a Diet Coke, and there were 3 big Macomb County blue-collar workers that you're talking about, and they were being pretty point-blank about how they were going to vote. And I started talking to them, and I said, okay, you say you're going to support Donald Trump? Well, do you know where he's producing the product that he sells in his companies? Do you know he's making them in Mexico and China? Well, no. And we proceeded to have a 15-minute talk, and when I was done giving them the facts, they said, okay, we have to rethink this. That's what we've all got to do between now and November, is really talk the facts and get under the sound bites to what the substance is.
That's an interesting story, and you're telling there, and we spend so much time trying to sort of analyze and dissect the voters of a place like Michigan, the voters of the Rust Belt. So many of these are swing states that Donald Trump is targeting. So you mentioned you encounter this group of sort of quintessential Rust Belt voters, it sounds like you're describing there. They are initially, when you encounter them, saying they're Donald Trump supporters. What is it initially that's drawing them to Donald Trump?
Because they keep hearing him say he's going to fight for jobs. They know that we've been impacted by bad trade agreements. And I want to look at you and say, it's not only the unions. At this point in time, the auto companies themselves, Ford and Chrysler, are as strongly opposed to TPP as the UAW is. And that's because we're tired of bad trade deals. We need to negotiate trade deals that are going to protect the worker in this country. We need governments that's going to fight for our people here. And when you talk to them and when you tell people about that and when you say, yeah, he says he's going to do that, but is he creating jobs here? Is he manufacturing jobs here? They stop and think.
All right, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell from Michigan, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.